Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. Dr. G here. And today we have the amazing Dr. Nilang Vias. She is a pediatrician who specializes in something that, if you're a parent, you totally understand this pain, and that is sleep and everything having to do with that. Nilang, do you want to tell the audience about who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. This is exciting, and I love to let people know what I'm up to. A lot of new things happening, but I'll start with the basics. So I'm from New Orleans, and here in New Orleans, when someone is trying to get to know you, they ask you where you went to high school. They don't care where you went to college or postgraduate school. They want to know where you went to high school. So I went to West Jeff High School. Completed high school in 3 years, and then went off to Our Lady of Holy Cross College, which is now called University of Holy Cross. Completed that in 3 years, worked in the PTR doing research for about a year, and then decided to get my master's in public health at Tulane.
Okay.
And then I worked investigating outbreaks, which was a lot of fun. We got to go around the state investigating outbreaks when people would get sick, secondary to food or chemicals, which was pretty exciting. But getting involved in that really escalated my desire to become a physician. And so I went to med school at LSU, and then did my residency in pediatrics at Children's Hospital. And I worked in private practice for 8 years, and then jumped off that bandwagon and started my business, Sleepless Enola, in 2014. And of course, throughout that whole process, I got married, lost a baby, we evacuated for Katrina, had 2 kids, bought and sold houses, I lost my father to cancer.
Oh no.
Yeah, lots of life happening in between all of that education. But yeah, it's been a interesting ride, but very happy to be at the, have come out much stronger on the tail end of all of that.
That is quite the journey. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has that, right? Everybody's got their shit, right?
That's the truth. That is so the truth. No matter how we present currently, we definitely have backstories that are filled with turmoil and overcoming. So,
Yes.
I definitely want to acknowledge what you said and the losses that you've had, because you mentioned 2 very impactful losses. You talked about the loss of a child and also the loss of a parent. And, there is so much surrounding that. How did you deal with that? How did you overcome that?
I think primarily with the help of friends and family. Everyone says, don't tell anybody that you're pregnant until 12 weeks, because then in case you lose the baby, you don't want to have to tell everyone that you lost the baby.
Right.
But I think that makes it a lot harder to cope if you tell people, oh, you lost a baby, and they didn't even know you were pregnant. But luckily for us, we had just told everybody. We had just evacuated for Katrina.
Okay.
During Hurricane Katrina. And we're like, you know what? We're evacuated. Let's share this good news with everyone. And we did. And then within a few weeks, lost the baby. So it was we're sort of grateful for having had told everyone, because we then were able to get that support.
I see.
And then with my father, that was obviously very difficult, and I was acting as his medical advocate and going to all his appointments and helping him navigate that process. And that was around the time that I decided to leave private practice and start my own business, so that I could have that flexibility and do something that I was passionate about, because life felt short,
Wow. So, so you made that decision, and that is a huge quality decision as far as life is and lifestyle is concerned. Now, when you did that, was there any fear or angst around walking away from the practice and, doing your own thing?
I think there was a little bit of fear just because of the uncertainty of it. In medicine, you're kind of given a path to follow, and it's easy in a way to follow it, because okay, after med school is residency, after residency is a job, and in the job, this is what you do, and this is what I've been trained to do. And so the uncertainty of, how do you start a business? How do you get clients? How do you bill? What should you bill? All of that uncertainty, which you're not taught, obviously, in med school. The business side of things provided a bit of fear, but I was so passionate, and that the fear for me wasn't as much, especially since I had the support of my husband and family, that if this is what you want to do, let's do it. And I knew I always had like true medicine to fall back on. I had my private practice to come back to, so in that way, that kind of protected me a little bit. I think it took a lot more courage,
right,
to make that step and say, what if I fail? Then what? But I knew that if I did fail, I always had something to fall back on. And that's what gave me the courage to kind of keep moving.
Okay. So you had this idea. So tell us about the backstory of that. Like, how did you come to want to dedicate your business and your mission towards sleep health? Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, for me, it was when I had my kids. And, when sleep was an issue for them, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know as much about this that I thought I should, being a pediatrician and, being a woman and being someone who babysat and was around kids her whole life. Like, I thought this, parenting thing would be a cinch. And once I realized very quickly that, I'm not as well prepared as I thought I should be, I kind of took matters into my own hands and decided that I'm going to attack this very scientifically and approach this lack of sleep for my child as a just kind of systematic approach, and go through all the journals and medical books and take into account what friends and family are saying and the sleep books are saying. And I kind of took all of that information, because a lot of it was really confusing and contradictory, and I took it all and kind of looked at it scientifically and came up with a plan that I then put into practice for my son. And when things started working better for him, he started sleeping better, he started eating better, he was overall just generally happier. And when I started getting compliments from everybody, oh, your child's so happy, you're so lucky. And I was like, oh no,
this is hard work. It's hard work. Not luck.
Exactly. And so I got the confidence then to teach other, because I was still in private practice at the time. So I was teaching, I started teaching friends and family, and then I started teaching my patients at work, and then started doing consults at work. And then once I had my second son and things started working well with him, and then, my dad started really getting sick, I was like, you know what, I'm going to see what I can do with this business, and if I can develop this business. And that way, again, I will have more time with him. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then I can always go back to private practice. And here I am 5 years later.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And it's working.
That is so awesome. I totally get geeked and inspired when I see, women like us doing their businesses on, other things besides medicine. And it's just, or even within medicine, but like
Right.
it is just so inspiring to see us like utilize that skill set that is kind of dormant when you are kind of going through the mill, like you describe, of the whole medical track. Like everything is expected, the next step is defined for you, whereas entrepreneurship is like so different because it's constantly like failing forward and fast and then picking up and course correcting, and you just use a completely different skill set than what you would use when you're caring for patients on a daily basis. So it's just super exciting. So I'm just very encouraged right now.
And when I first started, I was seeing about a client a month, and that to me at the time, especially since I was developing the business, was like perfect. But I was able to, within the 2 years from starting, to build the business to where I was seeing about 3 or 4 clients a week. And that was all obtained through word of mouth.
Awesome.
Didn't, go out and really advertise and try to get clients. It was just, one client led to the next client, which led to the next. And then last year, I licensed a physician to become a sleep consultant using the Sleep with Nola methodology. So I not only taught her the business side of things, but also the sleep side of things. And she now is her own sleep consultant in Canada.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like not only have you expanded beyond NOLA, but you have gone international. Kudos to you, girl. That's awesome.
And my clients have gone international as well, because I can, if the client is local, obviously I'll go to their homes to do the consultation. But I've seen multiple clients in Africa, in England, in India, Canada, and all over the US virtually on Skype and FaceTime. So because of technology, that is available these days. And so you can do it from anywhere. I remember we had gone to India to bring my dad to Ashes in 2015. And I remember seeing clients there. I shouldn't have been working, but I was. And I did consultations from India. So the time change was a bit of a challenge. But
I was thinking, like, how did you maneuver that?
It still worked. And that's the amazing thing about this type of business model, I guess, is that I can work from anywhere.
No, that's great. That is great. And, it's funny because like you basically developed your business from a pain point that was your own,
Yes.
So that's like the best because you're like basically paying it forward, something that you benefited from. So that's incredible. That is really incredible.
I've had so many clients tell me you've, of course, helped my child sleep through the night and is sleeping, better naps and all that stuff, which is a given. But they've said, you've helped my marriage. We were like on the verge of divorce. My husband was sleeping in the guest room. I was sleeping with the baby in our room. We never saw each other because I didn't want him to come into the room and for fear of waking the baby. And
got it.
Then he'd go off to work, so he couldn't really help me overnight. And this has changed our life and changed our relationship. So that's what, when things do get hard in the business, that's what keeps me going.
Wow.
And this year I'm planning on scaling the business so that it is more available and affordable to everybody.
Okay.
So I actually pitched the business at Idea Village, is a corporation here in New Orleans that helps new businesses and entrepreneurs, small businesses, have access to mentorship and potentially funds to scale their business. And so I participated in a pitch competition this past week and got up in front of multiple investors and judges and pitched the business idea of scaling it.
Okay.
And creating training modules and video modules so that others can be either trained as physicians to become sleep consultants, or as well as other families can be trained on this process for their children, depending on the age of the child. And it went really well. And that was my biggest fear. That's, if we're going to talk about fear, that my fear was getting up in front of people and speaking, the public speaking portion of it, but just speaking about me and myself. It's one thing if you're presenting about, a study or something, you're just sort of there to convey information.
Right.
But to get up and sort of toot your own horn.
Yes, which we don't really like to do.
Yeah. And on top of it, to say, you know what, this is my plan. This is how I want to move my business forward. And this is what I need from you,
Nice.
And it was an empowering experience. The day of, I told my husband, I'm not going to do it. Or if I do it, I'm just going to read cards. I'm going to read my cards because that's just what I'm going to do. I can't get up there and just speak. And he's like, if you have to read your cards, that's just what you have to do. And then we got there, and the organizers of it were like, oh no, there's no cards.
OMG.
Yeah, you have to do this. And, and I knew it. It was just, I wanted that security blanket because
right.
If I got nervous, which I do when it comes to public speaking, I wanted that security blanket. And when they said no, that fear really kicked in. I feel like I remember when I took a public speaking class in college, I feigned illness. I feigned all kinds of things to get out of having to get up in front of an audience and speak. And in med school and residency, you have those moments where you're supposed to present a patient or whatever.
Right.
But it always seemed like it was in small groups. And we did have to do like a morning report or whatever, Right. But it wasn't that often. And I feel like I've done so much more public speaking with this business than I have in the past with anything else. I don't have as much fear with it as I did when it involved things with medicine, because I have so much more passion about this, but it's still a source of fear. Even today, when I was like, oh my gosh, I had to get on this podcast. Yeah, my heart was racing a little bit until we hit record.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
And now I'm fine, but it's still, and that's one thing I do want to work on, is to kind of figure out how not to be so fearful and tell myself like, it's going to be fine. And if it isn't, who cares? So you fix it, you figure out what it was that didn't work and do it better next time. There was a girl that was also pitching at the competition, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Are you nervous? And she's like, you know what? My father was a diplomat. So I grew up around him speaking publicly.
Okay.
And I kind of learned that you have to just speak from your heart, and you have to get up there and say what you have to say, and realize that you are the expert and people are there to listen to you. Mm-hmm. And if you mess up, most likely you'll be
they're not going to know.
Yeah. You'll be the only one that knows it. And
right.
If it is a big enough mess up that other people realize it, it will be forgotten and people move on, and then you learn from it, And she really kind of helped me get through it, knowing that, that it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. You don't have to be perfect. And if you are, great. But if you're not, it's okay. You have to forgive yourself and move on.
Yeah, no, that is such great advice. I mean, yeah. And then the other thing too, to remember is that everyone feels this, right? Because I don't know if you ever read Brene Brown's, any of her books, but she talks about it. Like, she's like, I was getting ready to give this speech to, this corporate environment. And before she got on stage, she just really she looked out, she peeked out the, through the curtain, and she saw all these people dressed in suits. And she just all of a sudden had the imposter syndrome, totally felt as though what I have to give is not enough for this audience because they are executives or whatever, whatever it was. And it was literally, realizing that everyone has the same fear and everyone is the same. We all have to eat food. We all have to sleep. We all have to do all the things. So, having, making that intimidation stop us from giving our content to an audience is actually like doing the audience a disservice.
Yes.
So, you know, she was just saying that, you know, once she realized that, she just felt a whole lot more comfortable, and she was more prepared mentally to give to the audience. So it sounds like, you know, this person that you met is imparting very similar kind of advice. You know, she's saying, look, you know, this is something that, you know, you know more than they do, and they're there to hear what you have to say. So, you know, let's just get it. Let's get it going, and let's give to this audience. So that was some great advice that she gave you.
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting out of your way, you know, like
Yes.
we're sometimes our own worst enemy. Nobody else, you know, no one's out there saying that you can't do it. It's that little inner voice that needs to be, you know, put down.
Absolutely.
that inner voice needs to be put to sleep.
You know, unless it's coming with positive vibes only, right? I mean, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I know that you rocked it. I'm pretty sure you did. When do you get feedback about whether you got whether you got into the program?
Well, so there was only one winner of the competition, and that person did an amazing job. I'm super proud of them. But I did, one of the judges who asked, you know, each judge was allowed to ask a question. And one of the judges that asked a question reached out to me later and said, I'm very interested in your business. I'm interested in helping you scale it. And he's a local entrepreneur that works with small businesses specifically to help them scale. So the presentation was Wednesday. He reached out to me on Thursday and said, I want to meet you this week to figure out what our next steps are. So I've sort of been on a high since then.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, so I need to, you know, I'm going to get all my sort of user journey and business model type information together to present to him, and he'll present to me what we can do and how I can work with him to move forward. So
wow,
I'm pretty excited about
that's
that.
Very
whole
exciting.
prospect.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's like, sounds like you have a sponsor locally, which is great. You know, because, you know, we always talk about mentorship, but literally if you have someone that's going to sponsor you and really help you to like get to that next level, that is like platinum. That's awesome.
Yeah. And he was, you know, he had a good overview of what the business was and how it can be scaled. And he has access to those sort of clientele and, you know, how to transport the business to the next level. And so I'm, you know, I couldn't have asked for anything better, you know, to come out of it. And I know that it all happened because I was able to push through that fear, you know.
Absolutely.
Because I was so close to saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't think I can do it.
Right.
I can't get in front of all those people and pitch this business. I just can't do it. But I did, and I was so proud of myself at the end of it. And then, you know, that little voice says, look, see, you built all that up for nothing. Like you don't need to be this scared. You can do it.
Wow. Yeah. 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 It's funny because, like, you know, we think that, like, you know, someone is going to die when we get on stage, namely ourselves.
Right.
But that's just not the case, clearly. But no, that's awesome. Oh my goodness. That is such a great opportunity that has now presented itself because you stepped out on fear and literally did it anyway. So thank you for sharing that. I couldn't have asked for a better story if you shared on the podcast.
I know. I mean, it just happened this week. So
I know. That's pretty cool.
That is
pretty cool. So tell me, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that was one of the most important things I've, you know, as going through that process was, you know, I had to learn to kind of push and motivate myself, because in medicine, traditional medicine, you're pushed by the sort of parameters of the program, parameters of the outline that's set out for you from the school or residency, you know, like you have to get this step 1 completed by this time, or you can't move, you know, forward to the next thing. Then you have step 2 to do, and then you have this to do and that to do. And that kind of guides you through the process. Whereas in a business such as this, or any business that it's your own, there is no format.
Correct.
And having to make sure things are done in a timely manner, especially in an industry like mine that is sort of service industry oriented, you know, I feel like I have to push myself a lot harder now than I did through med school and residency. Granted, yes, you do have to push yourself to get through all of those parameters set aside for you as well, but at least those parameters are preset. Here, you have to not only create the parameters for yourself, but then try to make those milestones also.
Yeah.
And keep yourself accountable, you know, and progressing, because, and saying, you know what, I could be okay with the status quo and be okay with seeing a client a month. And that's, you know, I feel successful doing that. Or saying, no, that's not enough for me. I want to do more. And then figuring out what that balance is between pushing yourself and how hard you should push yourself, and when it's too much because it's interfering then with your personal life and your family life, and, you know, and figuring out that balance. I feel like that's the hardest thing in having a business, because it's your baby. It's your other baby.
Yes, the third or fourth child. Yes. Definitely, for sure. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, no, that's some good pearls, because I'm sure there are definitely folks who are listening to this who are considering, you know, starting businesses based on passion projects or pursuits. And it's good to hear that, you know, one has to have some level of self-motivation, you know, to keep it going, you know, to basically, I think for me, I honestly feel, and again, I do all the businesses that I am involved in are on a part-time basis, because I'm still working full-time as a doc. But, you know, it's like, there's definitely a lot of moments when you are saying, man, I just want to watch Netflix. I don't really want to do anything. I have to do this business right now, you know, but then you have to say, no, I can put in like even half an hour on the business stuff, and then I could go watch Netflix. There's a lot of like that going on. So yeah, no, the self-motivation piece is huge, because, and then the balance, because you definitely want to have like time blocks and do things that are going to interfere with your remaining portions of your life, because that's very important.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason, you know, I went into a business that I could have that flexibility. So, you know, last week I went on a field trip for my son, and I was able to block out that portion in my schedule. And there's no way I would have been able to do that, you know, working in private practice, like cancel patients, you know.
Right. That's not going to fly.
They let you know ahead of time at school, you know, that there's a field trip coming up, but still, I mean, so, you know, we're booked out months in advance in general pediatric practice for well visits and that sort of thing. So that just wasn't possible. So I feel so grateful that I am able to have that. But then, you know, it almost is like, oh, well, you took this time off to go on this field trip, so now you have to work extra and double and harder to make up for what was lost, you know. I never have that, oh, I should just watch Netflix.
Right.
For me, it's like, what more can I do? I'm always like working down to the minute, down to the wire, until I have to go pick up the kids, or I have to make dinner, or I have to.
Right.
You know, It's tough juggling it all, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
It definitely sounds like you are enjoying yourself, which is the key, right? I mean, when it stops being fun, then it probably isn't worth doing. So that is an amazing marriage, to have a business that you love, that you're passionate about, and that is starting to have some great successes. So, you know, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, and that's what I would stress to the listeners as well, you know, as far as if they're thinking about starting a business and they're, you know, stopped by fear, is that first identify what that fear is for yourself, and say, you know, is it the fear of failure? Is it the fear of not knowing what to do? Is it the fear that you won't be passionate or that you won't be happy, you know, identifying that fear and then attacking it in those little bits and saying, okay, if it is the fear of not knowing what to do, how can I fix that? Okay, I can take a business class, or I can take a, you know, a development class, or whatever it is to help mitigate that fear, you know, because most of the time there is a solution, and it's getting out of your way and attacking that solution or finding that solution. So it's doable. It's just a matter of getting out of your way.
Right, exactly. Wow. Yeah. No, that's really good advice. I agree with you on all counts, because man, recognition is the biggest thing, and then taking the action plan really can make all the difference. And you get breakthroughs like you did, right? I mean, you push past the fear, and then you ended up with an amazing sponsor that's going to help to catapult you to the next level. So, you know, it's worth it to push past fears that are not physically dangerous to yourself, right?
Right.
So, I always have to put that out there, because some people be like, well, should I? And nope. Any fear that is life or limb threatening should not be pushed past.
Yes.
That's there for a reason. The other ones you can work on.
Yeah, I feel like before having kids, I didn't have those kind of fears. I wanted to jump off, you know, buildings and jump out of airplanes and, you know, do really dangerous things. But now I'm like, oh no. Now I have more legitimate fears, I guess. But I still think they're fears that need to be pushed through, because
Sure.
I feel like fear exists because of the unknown for me. You know, and the fear of potential failure, not doing it just right, or not being perfect. And, you know, I know for me, that's what I really need to work on, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. If it isn't perfect, which it probably won't be, then you can fix it, you know.
That's right.
And seeing people see you as vulnerable makes a big difference as well. You know, if you're always perfect, it's going to be intimidating to a lot of people.
You're not relatable if you're always perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because nobody's that way, really. You know what I mean? Like, we all wake up with like stuff in our eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like, don't wake up beautiful in the morning with like flawless, you know, makeup or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's real. You know, the vulnerability piece is real, and it's what makes you relatable to the people around you, in particular your tribe. You know, so, you know, I think that probably a huge draw for your business is the fact that, you know, you went through the pain, and you are, you know, open about that. And so people are relating to you in that way. And it's that deep relation that makes the business even more powerful. You know what I mean? The impact of it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's hard to see it that way when you're in the thick of it, you know.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Like, I just need some sleep. I'm tired. I'm like so grumpy because I'm so tired. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's real. That is so real. Love the babies, but man, sometimes it can be challenging. But that's where your expertise will come in. So there you have it. So, hey guys, I know that you're looking to figure out how you can get in contact with Dr. Vias and see how you can be involved with Sleepless in NOLA. So, you know, Nilang, you want to tell the audience how they can reach you and your contact points?
Yeah. So if you're a patient, meaning you have a child that isn't sleeping well and you want to have a consultation, you can go on the website at www.sleeplessinnola.com/consult and schedule a free 15-minute consultation where we'll discuss specifically what's going on with you, your child, and the family, and what the needs are, and then I'll recommend a plan that would suit your needs best. Some families, you know, just need a little bit of help, and a quick 1-hour consultation may do the trick. Some people are needing a lot of assistance and a lot of hand-holding, and in that case, we would do like a full consultation. So we'll figure that out during the free call.
Okay.
And then they can book whichever consult was recommended. And if you are a physician considering being a sleep consultant, you can email me directly at Dr. Vyas, so DRVYAS at sleeplessinola.com, and let me know that you're interested, and we can set up a meeting and figure out what path we need to take. But I'm also on Facebook.
Okay, cool. Yeah, share that.
And Twitter and Instagram. They're all pretty much the same handle, Sleepless Enola. Twitter is Sleepless Enola MD, and Instagram is also Sleepless Enola. So we're pretty active on social media. This month is SIDS awareness.
Right.
So we're posting a lot of pictures about safe sleeping environments. So definitely follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and sign up for our newsletter. You can go on the website and sign up for the newsletter to get those tips and videos and discount codes and that sort of thing straight into your inbox. And have the firsthand information when we do schedule the full-on, we roll out the new plan, the new scalability of the business. All of that will be shared by the newsletter. So sign up for that. And you can do that on the website.
Awesome. And then I will put all of this information in the show notes as well. But it's great that you're able to articulate that here, because then if someone's driving, at least they can, know to reference back to Sleepless Enola and get in contact with you. So great. That's awesome. So I know everybody's going to reach out to Dr. Vyas and get yourself squared away and make sure your babies are sleeping well. So I know you will. Oh my God. All right. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your time, taking time out to talk to myself and the tribe. We really appreciate you. And we are at that point in the show where we do the fill in the blanks. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. Okay. So the first one is, if I am fearless, I will
move more seamlessly on my path.
Nice. And then the second one is, to me, fearless freedom means
not being held back, secondary to fear.
Love it. And last, but definitely not least, my battle cry is
when fear is put on the back burner, throughout all aspects of your life, then happiness can prevail.
Awesome. You are the bomb.com. I just have to say that. Oh my goodness. Yes. So that is our episode for today. And again, we are super grateful that you took time out to spend with us and to share your story and share all the great things that you're up to. And it has been a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, because not only was I able to, because of this podcast, I had to kind of think about that for myself and what it is that does invoke fear in me and my life, and what I'm going to do about that, in the future. So thank you for allowing me to think through that for myself, and of course share my story and overcome this fear of speaking today.
Awesome. Let me tell you, that is definitely I appreciate that. I definitely do, because the struggle is real when it comes to facing fear. So, yeah. I appreciate that a lot.
And I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, it's a love fest up in here now. Love it. Oh my God. All right, cool.
Well, thanks so much. Have a great day. And I look forward to catching up with you again one day.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.